And today, we welcome Maitreyi. Maitreyi is originally from South India, and over the years has been given many titles in India, such as Yogi Shiromani, meaning gem, Yogi Shamal, meaning expert, and Yoga Asharini, meaning guide, which acknowledge her gifts as a spiritual teacher. In fact, Maitreyi was one of the youngest individuals ever to be invited to sit on the World Yoga Council Advisory Board. Maitreyi has quickly become a valued source of spiritual wisdom here at Unity. So it is with great anticipation that we look forward to this talk. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Maitreyi.
So thank you everyone for having me here. It's been a blessing, a delight, and of course Janet feels like family, and all of you as well from the prayer group. It's so, I would say, heart-opening to start off before the talk. We have a prayer session, as is with Unity's habit, and where everybody comes in a circle and prays for the speaker. So I was like, what a blessing to receive that, and what a blessing to also be a vehicle of other people's blessings. So I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for having me. So we're going to start with a meditative practice to see this coherence, to see this beautiful dance between the polarities. And I come from a yogic tradition where the entire universe is looked at as the dance of Shiva and Shakti, which means the dance of consciousness and the dance of energy. So similarly, when we look at our own bodies, we're working somatically, where we're trying to integrate the right and the left side of the body, the front and the back, the masculine and the feminine, the right brain and the left brain. Again, there are two streams of scientific thought. Some say, oh, it doesn't matter, the right or the left, or the functions are not divided. And some say, no, it is divided, which means the left brain is more the masculine side of the brain. It's linear, it's mathematical, it's logical. It takes things, in a step-by-step manner. Or the right brain is more feminine. It's more, it just loves to look at the full picture. It's creative. It's lateral thinking. So again, like I said, even between the scientific community, people are divided. Now, I'm going to look at the yogic perspective of that also as we go into the talk. But now we're just going to do some simple practices to allow this wisdom to move through us. And one of the practices we're going to do is called the Jnana Mudra. Jnana means wisdom, and Mudra is any gesture that allows for the energy of that particular word to move through. So in the Jnana Mudra, we bring the tips of the index finger. So this index finger usually in yoga is looked at as the ego finger. It's the pointing finger. It's the indexing finger, the listing finger. It's like you are separate from him. So this separation finger is important because the ego is in yoga not looked at as a bad thing, but as a necessary step in evolution and individuation. So we can start off as herds or like cattle and have a herd mentality, and actually it takes a lot of analytical left brain thinking to individuate. So they say, okay, this is a very reasonably high state of evolution. So, but this is not enough. So we join it with the thumb or the fire of consciousness, and the teamwork between this individuated self and this fire of consciousness that purifies the ego is a very necessary step for enlightenment. So we're going to place the palms in this mudra. We are using both hands, I'm holding onto the mic so you can do both, and then place them on your thighs. And then we'll keep our eyes closed for a moment. And just be present to how we're sitting. And we're allowing for this wisdom, this dance of so-called polarities, the masculine, feminine, the material, spiritual, science and spirituality. How do we find this coherence? Or how do we find a teamwork between these so-called opposites? And this jnana mudra that brings together so-called opposites, the individual, the ego, and the fire of unity, the fire of consciousness together, says it's possible. It's possible to be in this human body and yet channel this holistic wisdom. So we're going to simply be present to the sensations in our palms and also be present to how we're holding our bodies. Now take a moment to sit a bit taller, shoulders a bit more relaxed, chest a bit more open, like you're ready to face the world. Now be present to your face. Do you have a jaw that's tight, or are your eyebrows scrunched? So just open your face out a bit. Have a little smita or smile to reassure yourself all is well. And bring your awareness to your breathing, simply observing the breath. Follow the breath as it moves into the nostrils, into the windpipe, and into the lungs. And follow the breath as it goes out. Now observe which nostril is dominant. Now some of you may not be able to observe just by this awareness. You may have to put your finger below and see, which nostril is letting out more air, which is more blocked. And so the yogic science speaks of the nostril flow as swara yoga. Swara means a musical note. It also means something that is self-effulgent, like the sun instead of the moon that reflects. So let's take a moment just to observe which nostril in us is dominant now. Sometimes it could also be both nostrils, but is it your left nostril you're breathing through, or your right nostril that you're breathing through? Just make a mental note. And now we'll take 3 deep breaths to anchor this in. Let's breathe in, expanding your lower chest, your mid-chest, your upper chest, and breathing out. We breathe in through the nose, and then we breathe out through the mouth, lips pouted. Breathing in, expanding, expanding, and just when you feel you're really full, take another sip of air through the nose and release through the mouth. Now bring your awareness to this mudra, hand mudra or hasta mudra, of uniting the individual with the collective, but the higher collective or higher consciousness, not regressing back to a herd mentality. And let's also look at another mukha mudra. Mukha is face, which is a smile. So have a gentle smile. Feel those fingers touching each other gently, the tip of the index and tip of the thumb. And we'll take one deep breath. Breathe in, expanding, lower, mid, upper chest, and breathing out. And let's take a moment in silence. If the mind wanders, remind the mind that we're looking at synchrony, we're looking at cohesiveness. So also the mind, when it's present to the body, becomes synchronized with the inner child, the mind, the parent, the body, the inner child. So there are many, many levels of synchrony we're looking at, and yet the focus being the right and left brain synchrony that we're going to look at today. Now gently rub your palms, place them on your eyes, one palm on each eye. And gently relax. And we have another hymn.
In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release. From a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God, I find myself. In the silence there is peace. In the silence there is unspoken joy. In the silence there's release. From a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God, I find myself. I wait for these precious moments when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God. I find God. I find myself.
That was beautiful, thank you. So this beautiful coherence between science and spirituality, between matter and spirit, has been the quest of many esoteric traditions for thousands of years, including the tradition I come from. And they have this science called Swara Yoga, which focuses mainly on this coherence. And like I said, Swara means self-effulgent. Swara means a musical note. And Swara also means the flow of the breath. So when we look at this left nostril breathing, this flow is called the Ida, and the right nostril breathing is called the Pingala. So the Ida influences the right brain. There's this crossing over that happens. And the right brain also is influenced by the left nostril and the left side of the body. And this Pingala nadi, we call it a nadi or a flow. A nadi is a flow. So the Pingala influences the left side of the brain. It's fascinating. I've tried these experiments, and I'm going to play you some videos to see where the dominance is. Is it your right or is it your left? Now, modern science says that you have a predominance to right and left. That is one side of modern science. Another side of modern science completely debunks it and says, oh, that doesn't exist. You know, both your brain hemispheres need to be taking care of all the functions. I don't know how many of you have seen the TED Talk by Jill Bolte Taylor, Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, you should watch that one where it's called My Stroke of Insight. So she is a neuroscientist, and she got into research because her brother had schizophrenia. And so that's what prompted her to go into it and figure out, why do some people's brains function in reality, and why do some people just get delusional and just cop out of reality? What's the difference? Now, what happened to her was she ended up with a stroke where her left side of the brain had like a blood clot, and it was awful because for 8 years she was immobile. But as it was happening, her research mind kicked in, and she said, whoa, the boundaries between me and the outside world were becoming less and less as the blood clot was increasing. So she made all these observations that when she was more predominantly right-brained, which is the feminine, whole picture brain, this is 16 years ago, she gave the talk, so it's not very old. And so she says that she found the boundaries between her body and everything around her merging and melting. She could just feel it as one beautiful universal energy. And that was fascinating for her. And then her left brain kicked in and said, hey, something is wrong, call somebody for help. And she would go back, into being part of this beautiful mystery of oneness and wonder for her, being both a researcher and an inquiring human being. And then after like 20 minutes, her left brain, even though it was bleeding inside, still kicked in and said, call somebody. And then, she would look for the, what do you call it, like the book where she had all the numbers, and she was not able to read the numbers because, again, the left brain is for numbers and mathematics, and she was not able to decipher it. And then finally, after 45 minutes is when she deciphered the numbers. So it's a beautiful talk which gives in real time how having a clot in the left brain made her have this holistic nirvana, she calls it the nirvana experience, this enlightenment experience of oneness. And how, of course, it was difficult to actually call for help too. So her individuation, her individual was not being preserved. So that's the downside of not having a well-developed left brain, because you're not looking at survival, you're just in the magnificence and wonder of oneness. So being human absolutely requires that we have both sides of the brain functioning beautifully, and yet having this right side of the brain more in action will actually give us this experience of oneness more. And that was all her talk was about. So in the yogic spectrum, and this is over 5,000 years old, these texts, they talk about the Swara Yoga as to how to synchronize both these sides of the brain, that is the right and the left. Yes, we want this experience of oneness, but we also want self-preservation. We don't want to die in the pursuit of enlightenment. We want to be in this body and, preserve ourselves and be well in the material world. So one of the simple tools they teach us is to become aware of the flow of breath. Does it happen in the right or does it happen in the left? Now, at certain points during the day, your breath might flow through both nostrils. And so these ancient rishis, sages, but I like to call them researchers, they tell us the best time to actually do activities, let's say martial arts, something active, is that when your right nostril is in flow, the masculine is in flow, then do things that are out in the world. A little bit, you need that masculine energy. And then when your left nostril is in flow, then what you need to do is you can even cure incurable diseases. These are given in the text, which means you're in the parasympathetic nervous system. You're in the rest and digest phase when the left nostril is in dominance. And that's the best time to build relationship, to have conversations that are healing, also to build homes. It's given in the text. Yeah, maybe you need to have a calm mind to build a house, not get agitated. So there's a list of things you're supposed to do when in left nostril dominance, and a list of things you could do, to enhance your life when you're in right nostril dominance. And when both are in dominance, then they say don't do anything, just meditate. And that's the best time when you can reach the divine effortlessly. So I'm going to play you a video. This is more from modern thought, not from yogic thought. So you just can watch it, and then we'll have a little discussion.
Hi, here's a dancer. She's clearly spinning in one direction. Or is she? It's been said that if you see her going counterclockwise, you use more of your left brain. On the other hand, if you see her going clockwise, you use more of your right brain. Most of us see her turning in one direction, but you can use all your brain power and make her spin the other way. Try it. If you start doing math, will it go counterclockwise? And if you think about something creative, will it turn clockwise? That actually happened to me. The simple brain test reveals some very interesting things. For example, my friends and I all saw the dancer spin in the same direction. And only after we trained ourselves were we able to make it spin the other way. So maybe birds of a feather flock together? Do we subconsciously seek those whose personalities are most similar to ours? Or in your case, if your friends differ from you, maybe opposites attract? Then, there's that nature versus nurture debate. How much does our brain dominance influence our hobbies? And vice versa. So, is it really that simple? Are you only right or left-brained? Of course not. In order to function most effectively, both sides should work at the same time. But we still have our dominant tendencies. Here's my challenge to you. Let me know if you're right or left-brained, according to this simple test, what your hobbies and interests are, your college major and or career, and similarities with your friends. Lots of love!
So I'm just curious, when you observed that dancer spinning, we'll just do a show of hands. How many saw the dancer spinning in a anti-clockwise direction, which is to the left? Okay? And how many of you saw, the rest of you, I presume, saw the other direction, or was it stationary for anyone? Okay, so the opposite direction. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to check your nostril flow and tell me which nostril is predominant at this time. You're not trying to breathe into it, you're not forcing it, you're simply putting your finger here and you're saying, oh, from one nostril there's more air coming out than the other. So that will be your predominant nostril. And this nostril flow, that is the Ida and Pingala, changes every 1 to 90 minutes. 1 hour to 90 minutes, the flow keeps shifting. So the yogic perspective is, oh, it depends on your nostril flow. You're not predominantly left or right brain, but if your body is in harmony, this nostril flow should be shifting every 1 hour to 90 minutes. If it doesn't, then maybe you're more in your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight, and maybe the cortisol is too high, and therefore you might have a right nostril predominance. It could go out of balance as well. But if you're in harmony, yoga says you will have this coherence naturally. So I'll just ask a few of you who said that it went in the, not the anti-clockwise, the clockwise direction. There were more show of hands for that. So which nostril did you find was predominant for those of you who said the dancer spun in a clockwise direction? Left. Brilliant. I hear more lefts here because yoga tells you the same thing. The left nostril, again, right side of the brain, and if the dancer spins to the right, then there's another video, I'm not playing that, but it says you have a right brain predominance. And again, yoga tells you it's not a right brain predominance totally, it's a right brain predominance in this 1 hour or 1.5 hours. So that's the slight difference between yoga and science, where, yes, please. Yes. No, fantastic. So that it's an optical illusion. So when you see it spinning in different directions, then you're able to switch between both sides of the brain, is the theory behind being able to see it move back and forth in a clockwise and in an anti-clockwise direction. So we'll do a little bit of a breathing practice so you understand. You can take this home, I'll share the video, and you can experiment. For me, I love these little science spirituality experiments, which I do on myself all the time. And I was like, oh, how am I feeling in this state? And how am I feeling after I've meditated? So if we come back to the breath work, the alternate nostril breathing, actually what it does is it builds this right-left brain coherence. And also crisscrossing. So let's say, oh, I don't want to do too much breath work. I want to do something somatically that will create this coherence of the right and left brain. Then we do a crisscross. So with my right arm, I touch my left leg. With my left arm, I touch my right leg. So even doing a crisscrossing movement will actually create that better coherence. So we're going to do a simple practice before we look at that video again without any sound and then see how if something has changed for us. So we're going to breathe in, and breathing out, we're just going to tap with our right hand our left thigh. And then breathing in, we're going to take our left hand and tap our right thigh. Now we're going to intensify it. Breathing in, right arm up. And breathing out, tapping the left. Breathing in, left arm. Breathing out. Breathe in, right arm. Breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. So a simple coherence was created. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the opposite. For example, many of you who said, oh, the dancer spun in a clockwise direction, we had our left nostril dominance. So yes, absolutely. So when it's spinning in a clockwise direction, it means that your right brain is dominant, and therefore your left nostril mostly will be dominant. Now those people, I want you to breathe into your right nostril. So for each person, it's going to be different. So whoever said left nostril, we're going to breathe into the right. And whoever said right nostril, or who thought it, is going to breathe into the left. So that's what we're going to do. Mine was left too, which means we're in the parasympathetic. We're pretty relaxed in this phase of 1 hour to 90 minutes. So I'm going to close my left simply because I was in left dominance. I'm going to shift it to my right dominance. But those of you who thought, oh, I was in right dominance, please do the opposite. So let's close the left for those who had left dominance. Let's lean back into our chairs and breathing in. Breathe into the opposite nostril and breathe out through your mouth. We're going to do this again. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And one last time, breathe in and out. And just stay there for a moment. Still keeping the nostril closed. Whichever nostril was dominant, you're closing that one. Swara means flow, musical note, but also the flow of your breath. And we're going to wait till the flow in the non-dominant nostril, its musicality, its sound becomes more pleasant. The non-dominant will feel like it's blocked and have a heavier breathing. And now we're going to breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the nose as well. Same non-dominant nostril, the other is closed. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. Continue closing your left nostril if that was the dominant one for you. And breathe out. Breathe in. And breathe out. We'll do 3 more rounds. Breathe in. And breathe out. 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 Last few rounds. Breathe in. Breathe out. And one last time. Breathe in. And breathe out. And gently open your eyes. And I'm going to request the video to be played without sound again. I'm going to also ask you to look at the base of the foot of the dancer and focus, for those of you who felt, oh, she was moving in a clockwise direction earlier, then focus on her right foot. And the others on the opposite foot. Now, did anything change in the spin? For some of you it could have, some of you maybe the flow was not enough. Of course, we need to do this practice for 15-20 minutes. I've done it for 15-20 minutes before my flow changed. We just did it for like 3 minutes here or 5 minutes. Did anything change in your observation? No, okay, then. So that's fine. It's still fine. It changed for you? Okay, good. It changed for another person. And like I said, this is just a teaser. There are a few people with hands up whose flow changed. And for some of you, you might need that 15 minutes of practice. Because like I said, today's not like a practice session, but to give you this tidbit so that you can experiment. For a few of you, the flow of the spin of the dancer shifted. And this is to say that you've gone into the opposite brain dominance within that time frame. So this is going to be my request. I'd love for you to experiment doing this practice for 15 minutes minimum, and then looking at the dancer and then saying, how do you see the opposite spin? Also looking at her feet. Let's say you saw her spinning clockwise, then look at her right foot and see if that shifts anti-clockwise. Now, this is just to give you a little tidbits, not to give you the whole meal, but little tidbits as to how this right and left brain dominance or coherence can be created through the breath, and also the advantages of this coherence. Now, there's a story that I heard when I was young, how, the difference between a right predominant person and a left brain predominant person. So two of them, disciples, they go and ask the guru. They say, oh, Guru, please tell us how many more lifetimes it takes or it will take for us to become enlightened. So the first young man is very left brain, he's very mathematical, he has all these really good qualities. And the guru tells him, oh, it's going to take about 11 lifetimes for you. And then he becomes really, really dejected. He's like, oh my God, it's going to be like another 16 years of school, or maybe even 12 if I just went to high school, and then, I have to make money, and then this lifetime I have to do this, and by the time I search for God. And so he was doing all the mathematics of these 11 lifetimes and how many years we're going to go and study and crawling and growing big before he actually searches for God. And then there was another man, again, not very bright, but very right-oriented. And then he asked his guru, how many lifetimes am I going to take to be enlightened? And the guru says, maybe about 80 lifetimes. And he says, voila, that's great. I have just 80 lifetimes to be enlightened. And in that moment, it is said that he had the coherence where he was enlightened in that moment. So this story is to say that sometimes the left brain is good for making lists, for survival, and yet we need the coherence and the joining together, the poetry, the art, the beauty of the right brain, and the joyfulness and the oneness of the right brain to actually bypass those lists. So thank you, everyone. But before I close, I also want to hold a prayer for a person who's very close to my heart. And his name is Robert Yelton. He's a native elder. And I've known him for about 7 years. And he's been in the hospital for quite some time. And he's had like 2 blood transfusions and 6 iron transfusions. So he's quite weak. And I'm making a documentary. I was a friend first. And then I said, Robert, we need to tell your story. If those of you who've been to Stanley Park, there's one totem that stands alone in Stanley Park. Has anybody seen the totem in Stanley Park? Just a show of hands. Yeah, thank you. So the ones that are together, clubbed together, are from different nations and from different bands. And Robert, of course, in his usual joking way said, oh, the Parks Board didn't even know that you're not supposed to raise somebody else's totem in your land. So that is, Squamish land, and yet the Parks Board invited people from up north and everywhere else but the Squamish people to raise the totem. And much after, even without the Parks Board paying him, he erected his totem in honor of his mother, Rose Yelton. So I'm going to invite all of you to also hold in prayer anyone who you feel needs healing. It could be yourself as well. And I wanted to close with that. I'm also going to request that we see just a 1-minute video of Robert so you have context for holding him in prayer, and anybody that you would love also in prayer. We'll do a practice after, but we'll just play the video first.
Robert Yelton carved and erected the first Squamish Nation totem in Stanley Park. This is a true artistry of love to honor his mother and his people who lived there. True love does not exist without respect. We acknowledge that we live in the unceded territories of the First Nations people here in Canada.
I'm Robert. My ancestral name is Hollyut Saweno. My totem pole came about in honor of my people. This is where my grandparents' house was. The 8 totem poles that are there, not one was Squamish. You do not go to another country and raise your flag on their mountain or their lake or whatever. You don't do that. It's disrespectful.
Totem, the documentary.
Thank you. So we'll just keep our eyes closed, sitting back on our chairs, relaxing into our bodies and finding a safe space, anchoring in our breath, where our mind is observing the body and compassionately observing the breath. If you're a visual person, then I'll invite you to visualize a circle of safety, a circle of healing around yourself first. It could be just a soft glow of light, or if you're not a visual person, just feel the soft glow around you, in you, around you, moving upwards into Father Sky, into infinity, moving below into Mother Earth, into infinity. And just stay with this presence of soft light. And feel the circle get wider and wider, maybe even as wide as this whole room. And everyone here is embraced in this beautiful glow of light and healing. And all of you have a visual of Robert, who he is, his totem. And I'm going to place him in the circle as well, even though he's not with us, he's in this room, or his spirit is being supported through the collective intention of all of us. As is each one of you, because it's how many ever times into the people in this room that are visualizing, that are feeling this soft glow. Now invite or bring in anyone you feel needs healing into this room. Maybe they're sitting next to you, the chair behind you, wherever, whatever your imagination calls out to. And let them feel and awaken to the surge of consciousness, the surge of healing that is available to them as well. If it's more than one person, that's great too. Maybe it's not a physical illness. Maybe it's a mental health issue. Maybe it's a financial issue. Maybe it's something that feels out of balance in their life. Maybe it's emotional, a relationship issue. Still invite them in to this beautiful circle. And let's place our left palm on our hearts. And either feel or see this circle of light brighten and widen with each breath. Let's breathe in, expanding lower, mid, upper chest, breathing out. Breathing in, expanding, 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 and breathing out. And one last time, breathe in. And release through the mouth. Now gently rub your palms together. Place them on your eyes, soothing the eyes, cultivating inner sight or insight. The wisdom that we want to realign with. And you can gently relax your palms and welcome back to the room. Thank you, everyone.
May I be a vessel of love, only love, only love in all I think, say and only love. May I be a vessel of love, only love, only love, and all I think, say and do, a vessel of love. May I be a vessel of love, only love, only love, and all I think, say and do, a vessel of love. May this voice speak, may these hands heal, may this mind yield to only love. May I be a vessel of love, only love, only love, and all I think, say and do, a vessel of love. May I be a vessel of love, only love, only love, and all I think, say and do, a vessel of love. In all I think, say and do, a vessel of love. All I think, say and do, a vessel of love.
Give it up one more time for Nathan Aswell. And thank you so much, Maitreyi, for such an enlightening talk. Science and spirituality. Thank you. And yes, please.
So I was just going to talk about synchrony, and then I came wearing this scarf. And Janet has a similar scarf. Of course, we look very similar. But she had the very same scarf that she wanted to wear and then wore this instead. And I was like, and she had similar pants. And I was like, oh, we would be twinning.
Synchronicity, synchronicity. Thank you, thank you. Also for that group prayer, because when we pray for one person, we pray for everyone, and I'm glad that we were able to bring into this circle today prayers for all people around the globe. So thank you again, Maitreyi. Well, coming up at Unity, we have some exciting things. The first one is mastermind meetings. We have worked within our community here with masterminding for many years, and we are excited to announce that starting next Sunday, we are resuming mastermind groups before the service. So these powerful group meetings offer the unique benefit of adding affirmative group consciousness and support to your stated intentions. The mastermind prayer has been practiced successfully for over 4 decades in Unity centers around the world, and the groups will be facilitated by longtime practitioners Randy Purcell and Janet Law. So no experience is necessary to take part. Simply join us next week, Sunday, from 10 till 10:30 in the lower level. And our next Explore Your Inner Being class is Thursday, November the 28th from 7 till 9 on the lower level. Our next class will be about past life regressions. Are you curious about the possibility of past lives? Well, explore the power within and discover the deeper abilities of your mind. Experience a past life meditation and visualization by a trained facilitator in a safe and respectful environment. We will discuss the hidden powers of the mind and share an experience to enrich your life. For more information on this, you can visit the Unity website. And just a reminder, we now have child minding on Sundays for ages 6 to 10. And if you know anyone who might want to take advantage of our new service, please let them know. And check out our Course in Miracles study group live this Tuesday from 12:30 to 2:30 right here at Unity on the lower level. Additionally, we will be starting a weekly study group focused on recapping the ACIM daily lesson workbook, which can be assessed free of charge online. The study group will kick off Monday, January the 6th at 11 a.m. on the lower level. All in favor for it, say aye. Yes, aye. Perfect. And so it will be. Today's affirmative prayer chaplains are Jeannie Bell Irving, Melba Burns, Mike Richards, and on Zoom, Len Satov. Would you please stand? To have a confidential prayer with one of our chaplains, simply come up to the front after all of the music is finished, and you'll find the chaplains here in the front row. They are happy to support you in prayer, and if you are watching on Zoom, I'll show you how you can participate in just a few moments. So finally, please join us downstairs for tea, coffee, cookies, and extremely empowering conversation, and I think you're going to join us down there too, Maitreyi. That's great. Okay, so let us now have our gathering come to a close. Please stand and let us together say the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.